Big Bad Mama, our resident retard. Have you been working on your Dunning-Kruger? You choose to vociferously dismiss evolution without... Why don't you jump on and teach us about evolution? And who cares about the retroviruses and the chromosome 2 fusion? All you're doing is begging the question and saying, well, this exists, therefore my process that I never watched exists. I would wreck you. I would wreck you. All you're doing is affirming the consequent, right? And in science, you can affirm the consequent if you have what's called an experiment. That's the whole purpose of an experiment. I'm out of your league, dude, lady, dude, man, Zer. I'm out of your league. But the retroviruses, there's retroviruses found in similar spots in similar animals. And how could it be? That means that we came from them. No, that doesn't follow. It doesn't follow. If you were a rigorous scientist, which you're not, you're a rock-eating moron.
When my mom eats rocks,
you'd be able to tell me the methodology in which you could determine the retroviruses could in fact exist in the same places between two different organisms. And it wasn't in favor of evolution. You couldn't tell me because you don't have any methodology. I'm the scientist here. You're not. You're the cult. You're the cultist in this scenario. It's just so stupid. It's just so overly done, too. It's just getting old. Even the scientific, quote, community is starting to look at the entire foundation that Darwin laid out in natural selection. They're going, well, this isn't... We're going to have to shift gears. We're going to need a black matter, a dark matter kind of safety valve, if you know what I mean. More time... different thing. They're probably going to go with aliens, honestly. That's what my prediction is. All the big bad mama cultists who just repeat what their little daddies tell them. Their little internet daddies with their white vests on. If it changed tomorrow, they would be reciting a new dogma. If it changed tomorrow, big bad mama would be, oh, we debunked evolution, not you. But I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty confident that the secularists, the cult of science, not the method of science, the cult of scientism, is going to adopt an intelligent design view that favors a distant civilization. Because they can't make sense of it the other way around. They can't. You can't. You can't make sense of it. They also try to use math as an explanation. No, math is not even in favor of evolution. The math is bad. Math is no, you guys are going to go full distant creator. You're going to go full distant intelligent designer. That's what you're going to do. Because they're going to tell you to do that. They're going to introduce the distant intelligence, some sort of weird psyop mixed with the alien narrative, and you're going to have to bend the knee and say, yeah, we're going back to panspermia. That's what you're going to do, because that's all you do. You don't think about things. You just wait for the next narrative to come down the pipeline and wait for Neil Tyson and Schmushdash to tell you what the truth is. If the scientific community debunked the retrovirus and the position of these things in the genomes, you'd just be like, oh yeah, no, they debunked it. Daddy debunked it. I'm just waiting. There's another fallacy I'm about to read from Big Mama. Here we go. This is what they do. If I'm wrong, explain X, right? So explain why marsupial fossils are found in Australia, South America, Antarctica, and North America. We can explain with Pangea. What do you mean you can explain? That doesn't explain it. What are you talking about? You can explain it with Pangea. So your theory is they existed in all these areas because, this is how stupid these people are. Ready? Watch how easy this is. So the reason marsupials are found on all of these different continents is because there was a major continent that separated and drifted apart with all of these animals. And then I'll ask them, how did you get the original marsupial? And they'd say it grew out of the land. I'm sorry. Doesn't your own stupid theory suggest that marsupials can just evolve into marsupials from the existing landmass they're on? You fuck. I'm going to try to hold off on the cursing. You idiot.
You idiot.
You don't need Pangea from your own view, dude. You can have similar animals, similar fossils evolve into themselves. You don't need this imaginary drifting of a continent. What's a floating continent? What are you even talking about? How is there even evidence that there are pieces of land that separate through some sort of process and stay afloat, and they float around like Noah's Ark? What are you talking about? Oh yeah, they flew away and they're floating, and now they're floating. They flew away all at the same time. None of them sank or anything. They just floated. And that's why marsupials are on the other place as this place. It's because the Pangea floated. It's a floating land theory. You idiot. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Pangea. Get the hell out of here, dude. It's insane. The kind of myth you have to believe to state that, like, there is this perfect separation of a puzzle piece, right? And it took millions and millions of years, but it also maintained its apparent puzzle piecing. I mean, you think like a 4-year-old. It's like training your 4-year-old to build a puzzle and assuming because they're similar shapes, they must have been together at some point. I mean, all you're doing is interpolating. Your brain is interpolating shapes that are very general, and you're making a massive assumption that you can't observe. It's so stupid. It's the dumbest thing. But it's certainly not even a good explanation for why some animals are on some continents and some are on others. I mean, what are you talking about? It's already debunked. You don't even need it. It's not a necessary narrative, even by evolution standards. You could just have, if you can have a marsupial evolve on land, you're basically saying, no, well, if the land splits, they can evolve to exist on the other land? Well, based on what? I mean, your own standard would say that the marsupial could have evolved on the land that it's on. So, I mean, it's so stupid. His own creation beliefs? What do you mean? I can't argue him. Of course I can argue him. They're more coherent than yours. You know why? Because my creation narrative includes miracles, and so does yours. But my worldview includes miracles, and yours doesn't. It's pretty simple, Big Bad Mama. Based on your own standards, you believe in miracles. Based on your own standards, you believe in an insane process that material can generate metaphysics. That's what's so silly about the naturalists, is they think an adequate cross-examination of a Christian's creation story, they think the adequate standard to measure the Christian's creation story is naturalism. They don't even understand that they're presupping us. Stop presupping. You're literally presupping us. Oh, he's talking about you? Well, that would be I answered for Dustin then and the rest of us. Nature can't account for all of the reality we experience. Why? Because experience alone includes things that are not found in nature. It's really simple. There's no way around it. The naturalist cannot explain the nature of reality because the nature of a reality includes things that are not found in nature. Okay? It's really simple. You answer the Dunning-Kruger crowd? No, you can't refute anything I say. You can't even steelman anything I say. You're just a troll who needs love and attention from this audience for some reason because you don't get it in the other audience. Why? Because you're lost in the mix because you sound like a drone. NPCs don't recognize each other. They don't celebrate and hug each other. The only reason you're here is you get attention, and you'll only say things that get you attention, but you'll never say anything that refutes anything I said because you're a coward. Atheism's dead. You can steel man? No, I didn't. Did I say anything about Noah's Ark? Why don't you steel man something I've actually said? Okay? You won't. You're stuck on Noah's Ark. By the way, Noah's Ark, you're going to use a naturalistic paradigm, which means you didn't listen to what I said. You're going to say, well, let's use naturalism. Let's use materialism and naturalism to examine the story of Christianity, particularly Noah's Ark, right? That's what you're going to do. And then you try to bait the Christian into taking or accepting a naturalistic standard for cross-examination. No, I just reject the standard by which you're cross-examining. It's simple. It's easy. Easy peasy. You're too much a coward to admit your belief. No, I believe in Noah's Ark. What are you talking about? See? See how easy that was? I'm not a coward. Yeah, I believe in the Ark story. Now what? Well, it doesn't match up with my scientific dogmatic approach to reality. Noah's Ark is a stolen story. Oh yeah? What's it stolen from? He doesn't. No, he never does. And that's why I know, that's why it's our fault for engaging and giving attention, because if they demonstrate bad faith every time, it's more like entertainment for them, which this is an entertainment channel. I'm glad I entertained big fat mama tard, but it's stupid for us to pretend that they care about what they're arguing. They don't care. That's your argument? So you're a coward, too much of a coward to believe in Noah's Ark. I tell you I believe in Noah's Ark, and you have emojis, and that's it? See what I'm saying? No arguments. Just laughter, emojis. Myth was stolen? Was it? How did you determine it was stolen? That's a claim. That's a claim. How did you? Who told you? What article told you that? That's all you do is recite old articles. Pangea. I don't even think scientists even hold to Pangea anymore. Let's even look based on. Let's use their epistemology. Yeah, they still believe it, right? It's funny how they come up with these years too. Pangea was a single landmass that began to break apart around 180 million years ago. Oh, really? How did you determine 180 million years ago an effect happened that you didn't witness, that you can't reproduce? Well, science told us. I thought science was about observation. Well, the puzzles look like the puzzle pieces look good. You're a geologist, Pangea is real. Well, there it's settled. Right? You're a geologist, Pangea is real. Again, I asked you a question. How did you determine as a geologist that an event happened that you didn't observe 180 million years ago? Could you jump on and educate us? How did you determine it was 180 million years ago that a certain event happened where land masses broke apart perfectly into puzzle pieces and then floated away? Guys, it happened. I'm a geologist. Guys, I'm a geologist. I'm a Christian, therefore I reject it. Yeah, I'm a Christian, therefore Christianity's true. Don't you understand? I'm a biologist. Noah's Ark is real. It's so stupid. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Oh, they all agree, therefore. Yep. That's all they got. I mean, they really have the best disciples, which is the irony is that they always call out the Christians for believing things and just believing things, and that's it, right? Just, I just believe it. You're just believing it because you're told it. They are the epitome of this. And how do we know this? Christians are in a better position because the thing that they believe maintains as their belief. And the scientismo changes their belief. So tomorrow, if a lead geologist said, Pangea, there's a problem, we're rejecting it now, dumbass here would just repeat that tomorrow. Simple. I'm a biologist, men can be women. Oh, man. Nothing. They have no... All they have are resuscitation. They're professional regurgitators. That's what school is training them to be. Anyway. Well, I mean, I might need even music for this. Bro, don't you even know that the Rockefeller academic and public school initiative was designed for you to just repeat things? Bro, they sold you a fake history. Bro, they don't want you to know the truth. They want you to think that you're an accident in the cosmos. They want you to think that you're pitiless, indifferent matter that by chance lumped together. They want you to believe that all your choices are determined by the laws of physics, including what you believe. And yet at the same time, they're asking you, why do you believe what you believe? When their own doctrine tells them, you didn't have a choice to begin with. Yeah! I'm waking people up, one barbecue at a time. Now, let me ask Big Bad Mama, hey, do you think men could have babies? I mean, we could solve this right now. Your anti-education stance stems from your own lack of education and guilt for not getting your degree. A degree in what? I know how to make shit. I know how to work metal. I know how to weld. What are you talking about? I know how to build a house. I didn't need a degree. I was building houses since I was 17. Did you build your parents' house with 2 other dudes, Big Bad Mama? No. You don't have any skill. The fact that you think that getting a degree is education shows how uneducated you truly are. You know why? Bro, take the Rockefellers, okay? Even take the Royal Society if you want to get real rigorous. They set out to make a school system that memorized things. And they added more to the curriculum. Memorize, memorize, memorize. Now you have a system which is really the epitome of their goal, which has people like you thinking that a degree that 1,000 other people have, because they also got in debt to get the degree, is of value. And then you leave your educational system with a degree and a stupid hat on your head, and you hang it on the wall, and you're wondering why you're still in debt, renting a car to get to work, to pay for the groceries, and then you can't pay for the degree. What is a degree if the job that you get from that degree is either non-existent or you can't even pay for the degree with the job? You're an idiot. Bro, wake up. It's all in plain sight. Such a dummy. A degree? No, I'm glad I'm not in debt from a degree. Are you kidding me? If something breaks, I can fix it. That's my degree. I know how to build shit. I know how to shoot guns. That's my degree. What are you talking about? A degree? You stupid. This is terrible. I mean, it's so depressing. The degree. What degree? Do you understand what's happening, Big Bad Mama? Are you even aware of how saturated degrees are right now? Do you know what they did? Are you ignorant? They didn't teach you this in college, apparently. That when the government came in and guaranteed a bunch of loans, you got an explosion of people who had degrees. Now, what happens when you get an explosion of people who all share the same degree and they come out of college? What happens, Big Bad Mama? Can you tell me what economically happens when you saturate a particular field or study or occupation with a bunch of people who all share the same degree? I wonder what happens. Not only that, but when the government secures all these loans, there's no risk for the school. They get free money. What do they do with free money? They jack up the tuition prices and add a bunch of nonsensical classes because they need to offer more classes because there's more loans being approved. What do they offer? They teach kids standpoint theory. They teach kids some men could have babies. Now, Big Bad Mama, the whole the whole room here, 233 of us here, would really like to know from you and your degree. I mean, you have a geology degree, you said, but do you think that men can have babies? Underwater, basket weaving, yeah, feminism, black studies, trans history, you name it. You keep securing those loans, you'll see what kind of people you graduate with. Definitely has a side degree in sociology. There's no way I think it's a dude. I think Big Bad Mama's a dude, but I asked you a question. No, my excuse for not getting an education is that it's a flawed system. I just told you how, and you can't refute anything I said. Okay? I'm not in debt. People with degrees are in debt. I'm not in debt. I was educated that being in debt was worse off than having a degree and not being able to pay for your debt. Okay? Not everyone's supposed to. The education system, Big Bad Mama, was not designed for everyone to get an education. Therefore, going out and looking and saying a plumber or someone who learned since they were 16 how to build a house or do your plumbing, right? Are you going to tell them, are you going to shame them for not getting a degree if they learned since they were 16 to be a plumber and now they run a business fixing your shit? This whole elitist class of retards who think degrees and higher education and college mean something, they're like 15 years behind the downward curve that we're experiencing right now. The downward curve. They're so dumb. They still think that there's something called education. If education was valuable, you wouldn't have everybody able to get a degree. Why do we entertain? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of fun. At least I can pull off some fun improvisation, at least. This is getting old, JB. Either get her to come on or have it. Yeah, true. It's true. So ignore Big Bad Mama. They never jump on. You're right. I have a bachelor's degree and an allied health with a GPA of 3.7. I think I would have been better off. Yeah, I have some associate's bullshit degree, and I have a master jeweler certification. It's meaningless. I mean, it adds to, like, if you go to a shop and they go, oh, you went to an actual school for this and you had a master jeweler, but it doesn't matter because if you can show what you can do and you're likable and you're not Big Bad Mama, you could probably get a job with skilled labor. Skilled labor, it trumps a degree right now. If you're someone with a skilled labor, especially in those needed categories, plumbing, electricity, that's what's so stupid about these people. They never shame their plumber if they don't have a degree. They're actually very happy that person exists. Most people who don't have a degree figure it out. I mean, let's face it. Especially in today's age, I mean, the other argument against degrees, if it's not like something specific like surgery, being a surgeon, being a doctor, being a vet, there's probably a variety of other things there. If it's more general at all, technology moves so fast and so quickly, even in engineering. Like, you still go to school for engineering and learn some really basic principles that you need, regardless of how the landscape of the industry changes. But as far as some things, marketing especially, you go to school for marketing, dumbest thing ever. Why? Because the technology moves the medium, moves the platform in which you learn. So it's no longer relevant. By the time you finish 4 years at an $80,000 a year party that you paid for, that you're still paying for, the entire climate and landscape of the industry changes by the time you graduate. So people who value degrees, who have this pressure of going to school, higher education, getting a degree and so forth, just to say they have it, they're so short-sighted in how disruptive technology is. They're so dumb. And it's because their parents are boomers like Big Bad Mama, and if they are, in fact, not just a troll, they really are the product of the parents who thought, well, you got to get a degree, son. You got to get a degree, son. It's like, no. The best thing you can do as parents is to get your kids to learn skills and get them to skip out and move them away from going to college. Move them away from it, unless it's like a very specific skill set trade. But most aren't that. Most, it's useless, totally useless. Krillick says the market is so oversaturated with degrees that it's no longer a convincing merit for the employers. Yeah, they don't even know what to do with it. They don't even know what to do with any. They don't even look at it. And the people coming out of college are so robotic. Here's my degree. What do I do? They're like, we're not looking for someone who's asking, what do I do? It just happens to be the case that the secular view, the secular humanist view that they have this like weird worship to their own. They have their own sort of catechism. The secular human public schooling is the secular catechesis. Is Big Mama even a real person? No idea. Who even knows? It's probably Owen Benjamin. It's probably Tyler. Yeah, it's Tyler Perry. For sure. And such, and education, and such. People are starting to realize now that knowing stuff isn't necessarily the best position to have. Like knowing a wide variety, a broad education background of knowing things. Jimbob believes his subjective God delusion is objectively real. No, that's not even a straw man. That's not even a steel man even close. You're dumb. That's not even engaging with anything I believe. Part of your comment, well, you don't really have a point. I'll bring it up again. You told me I believe in his subjective God. No, my position on God is not my subjective view of the belief. It's not subjective. Okay? So that's the first part about why you're not representing my position at all. In the first, why should I listen to the rest? But we'll do it because you're going to whine and complain. You're calling it a delusion, which is just bad faith. Under your own paradigm, Big Bad Mama, everybody's view and all of their views are delusions. I could actually debate you on this and prove that your view must believe as an entailment that all of our views are delusions. Is objectively real for the rest of us. His God is dysfunctional neuronal activity turned into grotesque concept. Yeah. What part of your own statement right there wouldn't be a dysfunctional neuronic activity? How did you determine that my delusions are dysfunctional and yours are functional? This is why I would completely fucking wreck you if you jumped on and tried to defend this statement. Big Bad Mama. Your own paradigm, you couldn't determine. You would have no methodology determining which activity was dysfunctional and which wasn't. Now, if you desperately tried to link functionality to utility in the world, I would demonstrate that having a belief in God, even if it were not true, was more functional than not believing in God. I mean, it's almost like you guys like the whippings. Jimbob doesn't experience the impermanence of them. Hold on. I need music for this one. Jimbob doesn't experience the impermanence of the moment. He still has PTSD from his Abrahamic religious upbringing and is lost in his mind, hence his belief in a literal Noah's Ark. Big Bad Mama says, Jimbob, you don't have to say Jimbob every time. I assume you're talking to me. Rejecting your imaginary Bronze Age superstition is not difficult. It's called rationality. No, you couldn't defend that if you called in. Your view puts rationality in the category of superstition if you're a naturalist, which you must be. If you're a naturalist and you're a proponent of evolution, rationality itself is in the category of a superstition according to your view, because it's accidental, it's reactionary. In fact, from your view, there's no difference between someone coming to the conclusion of a Bronze Age superstitious God or coming to the belief of anything else. It would all be downstream from biology, neurology, evolution. And that's why people like you can only stay safe in the comments, and you should. I mean, it's probably a good idea for you, because if you called in with this nonsense, it would just take like 10 minutes of a dialogue tree I've done 1,000 times to demonstrate your own worldview can't even tell me what rationality is. All it is, under your view, is some effect that emerged for no real reason at all. Chemicals. How are chemical reactions rational, bro? Bro? Ridiculous. And by the way, further, big mama lady, dude, you're probably a dude, by the way. What if it was the case that everything a secularist valued as far as outcomes could be produced by superstition? That what if superstition actually aided to the outcomes? What would you say then? The only science you reject is the science that contradicts a literal interpretation of your... Well, no, you're assuming my interpretation of the Bible, which you don't know. So that's a big L for you, dude. So you don't even know. You're just assuming. So you don't really have any arguments. You just have straw mans. Plus, the age of things isn't a matter of science. The scientific method is about phenomenon, determining age and things like this, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Yeah, the lightning bolt hitting a puddle creating life is Bronze Age fantasy. It's worse. That's what's so funny. I mean, there are endless counter memes to this. They actually believe, they think a worldwide flood enacted by God is ridiculous. But they also simultaneously believe, when you ask them, how does the earth get all of its water? They have to say, well, there was this meteor shower that asteroids delivered the oceans. Like Amazon Prime. Like Amazon Prime cosmology, the asteroids visited little old Earth, right? Who's not unique at all under their view. Nothing unique about the Earth. In the grand scheme of things, there's probably 1 million Earths in this infinite universe. But the asteroids, in the right time frame, all of them found and delivered. Radio dating? No, it's not. No, the margin of error is too insane. Big bad mama. You're just saying stuff that you're told to repeat. You're the best argument for determinism. You're an NPC. Radiometric dating is physics. Well, that doesn't give you the interpretation of radiometric dating. The interpretation of physics is not physics. But under your view, it is. Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny that this person thinks there's this thing called physics, but under their own view, the interpretation of physics out in the world is also just more physics. Delusional. Multiple absolute and relative dating. What's an absolute dating technique? What are you talking about? Relative dating techniques support one another. How do you have an absolute dating technique? What's your margin of error? If you have an absolute dating technique, then you have a dating technique that has zero margin of error. This shows how ignorant you are. You shouldn't even get the free government lunches they're sending you today. She's not wrong. That doesn't tell me anything. It says nothing. She's not wrong about what? What's the absolute dating technique? What is it? Any dating technique you're using, you're going to have to use in contrast or in relation to some other thing. right? In fact, you couldn't even have what you call dating something without it being relative to another object, which then that object, its date, is relative to another object and another standard. So even your dating techniques are relative to other dating techniques. I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say the absolute dating technique. Absolute, what's the standard? You going to tell me? Carbon dating is so absolute. $25 Bob Chat, thank you so much, from They Them Pastor. Exactly. Thank you. Based comment. Exactly. A grinder is an absolute dating techniques for homosexuals. Yeah, they don't know what they're saying. They just repeat shit that their daddies tell them, and then they make fun of Christians for, being these mindless sheep who follow the herd. You ask them what the margin of error is on anything, and some of it's 2 million years. They're like, it's not a problem that we dated a flute 2 million years when it was really like whatever, a couple thousand years old. They don't care. They're like, but the margin of error is 2 million years. Okay, great. How did you, what's the margin of error for you coming to the margin of error then, right? Itchy says, what do you mean physics interprets physics? From their view, that's what's happening. So from a rational view that accepts that rationality and reasoning and the mind are not completely determined by physics, that we have a will and a say in the matter, that we have a direction, that there's intent that supersedes physics. That doesn't mean it's not dependent on material things, right? A network of matter. What I'm saying is that if it's the case that the secularist view of things, the evolutionary view, the monist view of a giant physical biological machine in a process, what I mean when I say physics, there's physics that are done, like we study, quote, study physics, right? We're studying physics. We're inputting this and seeing this reaction, or observing the regularity of chemical reactions and so forth, and matter and motion and the laws of motion and all of these things. We're observing and interpreting and then describing it. But under their view, Itchy, and I don't know if this is your view, all of that, now this harkens again back to my first video, that if their view is true, physics is the thing in action that's interpreting what we call physics out in the world, doing physics. That's just brain fizz. Brain fizz, acting on brain fizz. And you call that an interpretation of the external world. And that's why that's why you have to say it's worse than physics. It's matter interpreting matter. Matter interpreting matter. That's it. Jimbob, as apes in a given time and space, our free will is very limited. Well, that's just an assertion. You couldn't even tell me where it was limited or unlimited, right? Even the statement itself, from your view, Big Bad Mama, if you're an ape, right, then it's just a complete fluke that you even have the ability, the illusory ability of thinking and reasoning post-diction. So it's anything from the atheist secular mouth about value judgments, about free will, anything metaphysical is outside of their paradigm. Anything. They're already outside of their paradigm. That's why they have to borrow a theological view, particularly a Christian one. But the moment a secularist appeals to anything that's real, quote, but not physical, that's conceptual and absolute, but not found in nature, they're already outside of their paradigm. BB just blasts claims. Yeah, it's just nonstop. Nonstop. Big Bad Mama's Big Bad Mama's an ape. Imagine being convinced that you're an ape and you think the joke's on Christians. Are you kidding me? Imagine being convinced that you come from some puddle of bacteria spooge, space spooge, and that you're a complete accident. That like I did a meme recently, your reason, all of your reasoning and all of life, all of life is accidental. And then you're like, well, what about your reasoning? And they're like, yeah, I'm Big Bad Mama and I'm an ape and I came from a puddle of fish sperm. But my reasoning is intact. I should trust my reasoning. It's a long process. Get the hell out of here. It's absurd. Big Bad Mama Jimbob, since there is a mountain of evidence supporting well, that's begging the question. What's the mountain of evidence supporting evolution? It's interesting that you just grant yourself a mountain because people use that phrase, and you can't tell me anything. You can't tell me a single thing that's evidence of animals turning into other animals over time. Not a single thing you can point to. You have to go back to abiogenesis and the Big Bang to raise questions about science, God of the gaps. No, you have the naturalism of the gaps. It's in fact the opposite. My argument for God isn't a naturalistic argument, so I don't do God of the gaps. Now, Big Bad Mama, there are many, in fact, most apologists who would use God of the gaps. Why? Because they're trying to point to the natural to argue God. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. So take your arguments and use them for those people and not me, because I don't use those arguments. I don't use strict correspondence. I don't use the Kalam and the fine tuning of the universe and look at the math in the world and look at the shapes. It's amazing. I don't use those arguments. I use arguments for the immaterial to argue for the necessity of God. So just stop straw manning. Okay. Evolutionary synthesis includes principles of natural selection. Yeah, that doesn't tell me how things happen. That's just another assertion. It includes it. Yeah, that means that you have principles of natural selection, genetics, and DNA, and fuck, I can't even say the word every time you write it. The point is, pointing to those things doesn't give you an explanation. Okay? You just said there's evidence, right? There's evidence that Richard Dawkins' account.
The whale. There was whales walking around in the water. They're like whaley cows, and they slowly dipped into the water, and they were like, "I want to go into the water. I want to explore the water for no reason at all, even though it goes against millions of previous years where I was doing just fine on land, and now I'm going to risk it all by getting into the water and changing my legs to fins over time."
Evidence of that. Where's the evidence of that? Nothing. Nothing. Now, back to evolution. Where's Big Mama? Big Mama, where you at with your mountain of evidence, girl? Oh, snap, girl. Atheists don't think. Big Mama, he says, definitely hasn't ever conducted a single experiment to come up with evidence. Nothing. Zero. Spoon-fed character. Spoon-fed character. Oh, here comes Big Bad Mama. So this is the tactic. When I push them on their claims of evolution, they say, explain something. So I have to explain something. Even though they're making the claim. This is their trickery. This is their pig snake qualities. Little pig snakes. This is how they slither in the grass. And they're... You tell me how the origin of the human chromosome 2 fusion and ERVs or support the conclusion of cladistics from the... Yeah, copy and pasting shit. Can you explain the copy and paste shit that I don't even know and I can't defend myself? The atomic clock? What are you talking about? It's just a bunch of gibberish. Why don't you come on and tell us about that? You explain it. You explain the origin of the human chromosome 2 fusion and ERVs, which support the conclusions of the cladistics from the atomic clock and the fossil record. You do it. You tell us. I'll just shut up and ask you to teach. If you're going to teach a bunch of 326 ignoramuses, jump on and teach us. I'll just be quiet. I'll just let you teach it, right? I won't even question it. I'll just say Big Mama's going to tell us the truth about evolution real quick. Yeah, enlighten us all. Can't wait. Yeah. Yeah, where do we get those chromosomes anyway? What if we just granted her little story about the fusion and they're saying, well, you find the retroviruses, right? The same retrovirus in the same place. How is that the case? Well, no, you asking us that is not an affirmation. If we can't answer why is it that there's a particular, quote, retrovirus that's in the same area between a human being and a chimp or something like this, you're the one saying it follows that we came from the same thing. Now you have to tell me why it's the case that that can't emerge or be a phenomenon from any other explanation. I don't have to. I could just say you're just doing a logical leap. You're just saying because two things are similar, that means that they're similar at a whole level, which is just a composition fallacy. It's like saying if I took those amplification tests, the PCR tests, and I found like a similar structure that's found in a rhinoceros horn in my elbow. Does it follow that my elbow came from a rhinoceros horn? No. There's no molecular clock. They just say all the things. At this point, they just say they just go to their go-to talking heads, and they spit up some gibberish. And then instead of them defending their position, their affirmed positive position, they say, can you explain why do things fall then? Well, then why do things fall? It's like, that's not how it works. What else? What else is going on? Morality came from our evolution as a social ape species, not from your 10 commandments. Well, you can't justify that claim. In fact, if morality is just an effect of evolution, then you can't tell me anything that comes from evolution is right or wrong. So if you're saying morality in regards to how we define it, just people coming up with claims about what's right or wrong evolved, then it's useless. Not useless. It's standardless. So what you're calling morality, Big Bad Mama, is actually just a set of preferences. In which case, if we prefer the 10 Commandments, then based on your own reasoning here, Big Bad Mama, I'm gonna play the retard sound. Based on your own reasoning, dummy, the 10 Commandments came from our evolution as a social ape species. You dummy. You big dumb dummy. Think about what you're saying. Oh, morality came from evolution as social ape species and not your 10 Commandments. Based on your own reasoning, the 10 Commandments came from the same thing as you're saying. That the 10 Commandments are valid. Because from your view, they come from an evolutionary process that upholds or undergirds a social ape species. You dummy. This is how unthinking atheists are. They're so dumb in their thinking. They're so reactive that they don't even see that what they say actually necessitates or validates, at least, validates the Christian view. Why? Because all theology, including the 10 Commandments, or the Bhagavad Gita, or whatever the hell the Hindus call it, makes me hungry every time I try to say that word. I just feel like there's like a bowl of like some sort of hummus hybrid. Your own view, I can't make this more clear. Your own view states that Christianity is an evolutionary byproduct that is necessary, that it's included in your own definition of morality. So it's a contradiction to say morality came from the evolution, not the 10 Commandments. Well, no, it's a contradiction. Why? Because under your own view, the 10 Commandments are also a byproduct of morality or evolution. Silly. You see how stupid that is? Jimbob never outgrew his childhood religious. Yeah, that's not an argument. All you did is swap religious indoctrination with scientismo doctrination, scientism. That's all you've done. You don't escape your indoctrination, lady dude. You think you escaped indoctrination? By the way, what's wrong with being stuck in my childhood indoctrination? The atheists can't even tell me. They can't even tell me. This is a perfect example of why the atheist, the secular humanist, adopts a moral imperative toward truth and can't even justify it. What would be wrong with not outgrowing religious indoctrination from the secular humanist? None of you can tell me. You're all cowards. Do you think you knew not to murder before the commandments? Well, when? You know what I mean? You have to be taught this, and when you get older, you do have a moral sense, but having a moral sense of what's right and wrong is not the same as providing a standard for what's right and wrong. Now, the unthinking atheist confuses this quite a bit. They think, oh, you think without, Christianity, people would just be slaughtering each other? I mean, it could be the case, but that's certainly not the argument. From a Christian view, in fact, it's kind of funny when the atheist says, well, I know not to murder. I know not to kill. I know I have a general intuition of what's right and wrong, and I don't need Christianity. Well, that's interesting because that's inside a Christian view as well. Just because you have moral intuitions written on your heart, so to speak, it doesn't mean you have a standard for why it's right or wrong. So these get confused a lot. If I have a sense of not doing X because I think it's wrong, it doesn't tell me why it's wrong just because I have a sense. Now, you might be right in your sense that it's wrong, but that doesn't tell me why it's wrong. The atheists don't like to go down this route because then they have to provide a justification for why something's wrong outside of them sensing that it's wrong. Now, I know it takes very... you have to do some nuanced thinking to make this distinction, but there it is. Now, Big Bad Mama, loud in the chat, never on the screen, can't tell me why anything's wrong morally at all. You can't tell me. You've obviously never studied comparative religion and mythology because you're stuck in your literalist interpretation of the Bible. I haven't even argued anything in the Bible. So you're not countering anything I'm saying. The chat sees it. You're failing hard. You're doing red herrings. You're not sticking to the topic. I asked you a question. Why is it wrong to be stuck in an literalist interpretation of the Bible? Why is it wrong? Why would that be wrong? Why would that be bad? Why would you argue against it from your stupid evolutionary view, which would reduce all beliefs, all heuristics? From your view, we're all stuck in our views because they're caused by physics. So dumb. It's just too easy. My job is too easy. I like how the atheist constantly asserts claims that comports with the Bible as if it's a jab against it. I know. They don't know what they're arguing. They're just... Big Bad Mama's mostly a troll. Just bored out of its mind. How much am I know. It's so bad that you'd think I'd funded it. It's so bad that you'd think I'm funding. Big Bad Mama never graduated from 2010 YouTube. Yeah, it's all the same talking points. It's just so beaten to death. Big Bad Mama, there's no physical proof for religious claim other than saying the universe exists. Gods were invented to explain the universe exists. Well, then you'd have to say the truth was invented. Was the truth invented? Because the standard by which you're rejecting gods or any sort of religious claims would work you out of your own epistemology, Big Bad Mama. Now, you'd have to think about this longer, but my question to you is, when you use the term physical proof for religious claim and you're ambiguous about the claim, right? Well, I'm going to guess that your standard for determining whether something's real or not or worth believing is some sort of empirical approach. Proof, physical proof, that's not really even a term. Proofs mostly refer to math. If you're saying evidence, physical evidence, there's no physical evidence for X claim other than saying the universe exists. No, there's no evidence based on your standard that the truth exists. And yet here you are making truth claims. So, Big Bad Mama, how can you prove to me physically that truth exists? I'll wait. The whole chat is ready to hear your, we got 300 people here. They can't wait to hear your evidence for truth existing from an empirical standard. Can't wait. Yeah, Big Bad Mama is just assuming that the entire, all three columns of a worldview are non-evidential. There's no evidence for metaphysics. There's no evidence for epistemology. It's not evidence-based. It's assumed. Evidence requires you assume these things. Evidence doesn't give you these things. Evidence is secondary. That's why scientific exploration is the lowest form of knowledge, because it's after the fact you've granted all of these other things. Silly. And the atheist view can't provide an account for these things. They just assume them. They say self-evident. No. Kelly Mitchell, $5. Is Big Mama 14? Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty much copy-paste atheism. It's bad. It's real bad. Still waiting on an answer, though. What's your evidence that truth exists? Are you just going to say truth doesn't exist? That's hilarious. Big Mama says, you don't need to say Jimbob every time, lady dude. Most scientific evidence you reject is the science that contradicts your literal interpretation of the Bible. No, I never talked about my interpretation of the Bible, and so that's a straw man and has nothing to do with the question I ask you. You obese demon. The question I asked you is, do you have physical evidence of truth? Now, I'm going to just take your absolute avoidance and deflection of this question as a win, right? You have no evidence of truth existing. None. Zero. How does that make you feel? Tenoblet says, one screaming capybara. Yeah, this is for Big Mama. Oh, here we go. T-dump level. Reality is truth. Awareness of the moment. Study some Zen. Ugh.
I think this bullshit about providing argument is sitting on some bullshit.
So if I'm aware of a grape happening in the alley, I'm just having awareness of the reality is truth moment. That's great. Oh, man. Man. It's rough. That's a rough take. Big Fat Mama again with her retarded takes. Why don't you be honest and give us your interpretation of Genesis? Because I don't have an interpretation of Genesis, because that's not how I do hermeneutics. You dummy. I reject that people have personal interpretations of biblical text, that you just look at it and go, oh, what's my take? Plus, that's such a vague question. It's a meaningless, vague question that assumes some sort of sola scripturist approach, which I reject. So you don't even know who you're dealing with. So, go back to the drawing board. Because there is no me interpreting. There's no Jimbob's interpretation of biblical text. That doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. It's irrelevant. amazed. Why can't your interpretation align with a true interpretation? It can. But asking me my personal interpretation is a silly question. You know, I would just go to, quote, the true or the authoritative interpretation of Genesis in that case. So the question isn't whether or not you can open a book and your take can align with an authoritative take. The question is, if there's an authoritative take, you should just be studying the authoritative take. You know, and not having a hypothesis. I mean, we're in a time for Christianity in general in the West, in modernity, where people take an esoteric approach to the Bible, and they think, you know, God wants them to figure out the special decoder ring of the Bible. You know, if you pray really hard, you'll come to the real interpretation of the text. And that, you know, your task is to understand the text alone. You know, just read it and just really try to find it, figure it out, right? And they're basically taking, a hypothesis approach where they come up, I'm gonna create a hypothesis for what I think this means. What? And everyone comes to the table and they're like, but I have something to say. What if? And you're like, what if you studied ancient heresies and everything you're about to say was already dealt with in a different era and time? Well, no. Listen, I'm just going by the text alone. Yeah, that's the problem. That's what the problem is. Yeah, but those other things are extra biblical, you know, how they went into, in very long form, delineated heretical and blasphemous positions and already dealt with them. And now they're just come back up because Adam Green has a lot of people on his channel. You know, it's absurd. You nitpick scientific evidence, yet don't analyze your religion because religion isn't a scientific paradigm, you dummy. Not even the scientific paradigm is fully dependent on evidence. What don't you understand about this? And don't assume I'm trying to hide anything. You fundamentally don't understand what you're dealing with right now. You don't even understand the problems with your own position. In fact, for you to even for you to even engage with or try to counter a worldview, you're assuming a bunch of things that your own worldview can't account for. I don't understand. Why can't you just listen? A Christian view, a Christian account of reality isn't reduced to correspondence. It's not reduced to scientific methodology. These are different categories. Scientific methodology could never give you why we ought to deny falsities like Christianity. If you hold that Christianity is false, science can never tell you why we ought to value, if that were the case, to even acknowledge it. Okay? So that's why atheism is a failure in its, at least for those who are drawn to rejecting Christianity or coming to, you know, we gotta fight for this. Oh, it's a troll account? Oh, that's beautiful. Wait, is Big Mama a troll account? I thought you were talking about this guy. I was like, that's good. That's good trolling. Well, that's it for me. Have a great day, you all. You too. Have a great day to you, seriously.